Welcome back to our next day of our Lenten meditations. And today I've chosen what probably is the best known of the hymns. And it was the one that I first remember singing as a kid. I think mostly because the music was easy for kids to pick up on, it had a repetitiveness to it. So I think that's why we were taught it early on. Um, but it really has some very deep, profound Lenten themes to it. So, just to give you a little bit of background on it, 40 Days and 40 Nights was first published in the Penny Post in March of 1856. And it was 9 stanzas long with 4 lines in each stanza. It was titled Poetry for Lent, as sorrowful and yet rejoicing. Sorrowful and yet rejoicing, which is an interesting description. And it was signed GHS. Now, these initials stood for the author, George Hunt Smitten, who was the rector of a parish church in Hawksworth in England. The hymn itself calls us to consider what has become, again, the best known element associated with Lent, and that is of fasting. Even people who don't practice Lent or believe in Christianity even have heard of the idea of giving up something for this season. Now, fasting is a complicated discipline that has evolved a lot over the centuries. Initially, fasting was done as a symbolic action that took our attention away from our worldly concerns, such as our appetite, and allowed us to focus on spiritual concerns instead. Traditionally, fasts were held on Fridays as a reminder that Jesus gave up everything for us in his crucifixion on Good Friday. Another old discipline was to fast on Wednesdays as well during Lent. Wednesdays were chosen as a reminding to ourselves of Judas's betrayal, which took place 2 days before Jesus' death. While we have developed this into, giving up meat on certain days, I'm sure you've heard of that. There are many different forms of fasting that help us to switch our focus from worldly, earthly things to God. One such fast that I often try and sometimes fail, but often I attempt to do it, is to abstain from the use of technology on one particular day out of the week. Another possible fast is to only eat after sunset on Friday evenings. Now, fasting can be an effective form of spiritual discipline, but it is essential to remember it is not a way to lose weight. Spiritual fasting is a way to allow ourselves that discipline, but always remember that health concerns need to outweigh our desire to stick with traditions. And so let us take a few moments and hear the poetry, not all 9 stanzas, but the poetry that was given to us by Smitten many years ago. 40 days and 40 nights. That was fasting in the wild. 40 days and 40 nights tempted, and yet undefiled. Should we not thy sorrows share and from worldly joys abstain, fasting with unceasing prayer, strong with thee to suffer pain? Then, if Satan on us pressed, Jesus, Savior, hear our call. Victor in the wilderness, grant we may not faint or fall. So shall we have peace divine. Holier gladness ours shall be. Round us, too, shall angels shine, such as ministered to thee. Keep, O keep us, Saviour dear, ever constant by thy side, that with thee we may appear at the eternal Eastertide. So here's a Few questions for us to contemplate. First off, what's meant by tempted and yet undefiled? How does it help to imagine temptation as actions, concrete actions that are made towards us? And here's a really broad question to bring to mind. What do you believe about angels and demons? And so I hope you take these questions with you for the rest of the day and contemplate them and hear the words of that hymn go through your mind. And then tomorrow, I hope you come back and join me again. And until then, please take care and God bless.